Well, welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, and I'm here with my friend Dr. Elia Gourgouris, who is also known as America's Happiness Doctor. He's an international keynote speaker and the author of the #1 best-selling Amazon book, Seven Paths to Lasting Happiness. He's the president and co-founder of the Kindness Factor International, which recently produced the highly acclaimed documentary feature film For Such a Time as This, and it has had a massive impact on kindness worldwide. The first half of his career, he built a thriving private practice as a clinical psychologist, which was all word of mouth, before moving on to become an executive coach working with C-suite leaders. With his positive psychology background and throughout his books, keynotes, podcast interviews, which he's done over 400 podcasts to date, and executive coaching, he's helped hundreds of thousands of people, both in their careers and their relationships, achieve happiness and success in their personal and professional lives. As an inspirational speaker, he frequently presents at international conferences focusing on happiness, corporate wellness, and mental health. And he's the host of a new TV show called The Happy Hour with Dr. Elia on the Mental Health Television Network. He travels all over the world, and I am honored to have him here. Welcome to the show, Dr. Elia.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it.
You're
Good to be
very
here.
welcome. Absolutely. And I just would love to dive on in because we got so much to talk about today.
Of
But can you
course.
take us back to a moment that just shifted everything for you, that really kind of set you on the trajectory that you are today?
I think that moment, actually, I was 22 years old, and it was a very tragic thing that happened. I lost my mom to
Mm,
cancer in California. And she was like, I know this may sound weird, but she was all about love, and she was the love of my life. I was definitely a mama's boy. She was a remarkable human being with a heart that was so full of love for everyone. She wasn't just loved by people, she was beloved by people. And, she never showed how much, she had cancer three different times over a span of 12 years. So she was quite a survivor.
wow.
I think when I graduated from UCLA and, my brother got his master's from UCLA at the same ceremony, she was too sick to come to the graduation. And we both, walked into the hospital room and she looked at us, she goes, "This is what I've lived for. I know you guys are going to
Mm,
be okay." And it was a downhill, I think within the next maybe 4 or 5 months, he passed away. But the key part to this is on her deathbed, her last words to me, and that's how she was too. She said, "Honey, don't worry about me. I'm going to be just fine. I just want you to be happy."
mm,
And these are her final parting words to me. So, when you lose somebody that you're so connected with, so young, it changes everything. Number one, you don't take life for granted. Number two, you try to make every day count. And of course, the first year after you lose a loved one like that it was really hard for me. I mean, even though I graduated from UCLA, I was completely lost. I think, my father in his grief drank even more. His coping mechanism, my brother in his own took off and did his own thing. So I was kind of like I went from this beautiful, amazing family that we had. It's almost like cancer came in and threw a grenade and just blew it up.
mm,
And I think for that first year, and I am happy, and I've been happy, pretty much my whole life, despite of things that have happened. But during that first year, I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, I remember just like not wanting to get out of bed, actually not wanting to exist. Like I wasn't suicidal, like I wouldn't take my life, but I'm like, God, if I get hit by a bus today, I'm okay because I want to be with my mom. I can't even imagine living, 50, 60 years, past that without her on this earth. So it was a struggle the first year. Pretty normal, actually. I've done a lot of grief counseling and grief therapy with people, so that's a pretty normal reaction. But on the anniversary of her 1 year, passing, her words came back to me like something hit me with like a 2 by 4, and it resonated again. My boy, just don't worry about it. I just want you to be happy. And I made a conscious decision and a determination that the best way to honor my mom is not to be in bed depressed, but the best way to honor her is to go out and be happy and help other people find happiness too. So I think that kind of set the trajectory. Soon after that, I went back. I got my PhD in psychology and started my practice, and you know, I've been very blessed to have helped many, many people. But I think that's a defining moment that literally, I think, changed the trajectory of my life for sure.
Yeah. No, it sounds that way. And I love that it was a conscious decision, right? So often life just kind of comes at us and we don't know what to do. And you made a very conscious decision of, I'm not going to live this way. I'm going to change my path. And therefore you did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my mom would want me to be depressed and, in bed and, not getting out of bed. I'm like, and so even though there was the lowest point of my life, in some ways it opened up so many doors. And of course, it increases your empathy towards other people with the grief. I mean, I think I became a better psychologist because of that experience. I know that may sound weird, but I feel like it has helped me a lot in my life
Yeah. No,
to
I
be able
can
to do
definitely
that.
see that. So talk to us, so often happiness may feel fleeting or you can't quite grasp it or you're chasing things to get happiness. So talk
Of
to us
course.
about what is that? How do you attain that, right?
Well, first of all, let's define happiness because I think that's really important. And people for the last 2,000, 2,500 years have, tried to define it. But I don't think anybody's done it better than the great Greek philosopher Aristotle, who
Mhm.
said 2,500 years ago in Athens, in Greece, and I'm Greek, of course. So he said, happiness is the whole purpose and the meaning of life, the
Mhm.
whole aim and end of human existence. Think about what he just said. So I don't think I can improve upon Aristotle's definition of happiness. I do believe, however, that happiness is a choice, um, but it's also a skill set. Because if people say, well, happiness is a choice, I think that can be seen sort of insensitive to those people that are struggle with depression and anxiety and stress and so on. But I believe that happiness is a choice, but it's a skill set, meaning that if you do certain things on a consistent basis, you'll find your happiness. No doubt about it.
Mhm. And what are those things? Because I'm sure people are thinking exactly that.
Well, I'll just kind of go down to the quick list of the seven paths to lasting happiness. But first and foremost is self-care and self-love, meaning how well do we take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? And for me personally, especially since the pandemic, my self-care on a daily basis is a non-negotiable.
Mm.
None. That's it. So I start off my day and charge my batteries. Don't we charge our phones? Do we let
Yeah.
our phones like go out? Like why is charging our phones more of a priority of really charging our own batteries? Think about that.
Yeah.
So for me, that's number one. I think the second thing is just living life with gratitude. And we've all heard, let's have an attitude of gratitude. It rhymes, it's cute, it's adorable statement. But I think when things are going well in life, gratitude is very easy.
Mhm.
And we know from, the neuroscience part of me is like you cannot be in a grateful state and be in a depressed state simultaneously at the same time, physiologically. Because when we're in a grateful state, those wonderful, I call them the drugs, the best drug dealer in the world is the human brain. It starts
Yeah.
releasing into our system, and then, but but the reality is that life is tough. So the question is, can we be grateful when things are not going our way necessarily? And I believe that we are all graduates from the University of Adversity, all of us. And the older we get, the higher the degree.
Mhm.
Multiple PhDs in adversity. So then the question is, can you be grateful in the midst of adversity? Because that's harder to do. And I'm convinced that you can. Um, I have one of my role models was Nelson Mandela,
Mhm.
just an amazing human. Even though he was in prison for almost 3 decades, he comes out, he forgives his oppressors and becomes president of South Africa. But one of the most profound and simple things that he said was, in life, either you win or you learn,
Mm.
meaning that there actually are no mistakes. There's no losing as long as you're learning something,
Yeah.
right? So, for us, when we're facing challenges, it's very common to fall into the victim mode.
Mhm.
That's how we react. Poor me, why is this happening to me? You hear this, why is this happening to me? But I wonder what would happen is if we switch that little question by one word and said, why is this happening for me? Not to me. To me means I'm victim, poor me, I get down and depressed and so on. But if I ask, why is this happening for me? Now it opens up possibilities that there's an answer to that. And in my experience and in working with, again, thousands of people, isn't it true that the greatest lessons personally that I've ever learned have not come from my successes.
Mhm.
They've come from what at the time, appeared to be mistakes, setbacks, human frailties, whatever, whatever. And yet I can look back at those, including what I shared with you about my mom's passing, right? I know exactly why that happened because I wouldn't be the person that I am today had those things not happened. So the quicker we can shift from the poor me to what can I learn from this, the quicker not only learn the lesson, but be grateful for that experience. Is it easy going through it? Of course not. But is it worth it? I think so.
Yeah.
So that to me, gratitude is number two. I think, living obviously your life with purpose and passion. And I learned my purpose very early on, which is I really wanted to leave this world in a better place than I found it. That was always my goal. I think if I passed out today, that's mission accomplished by
Mhm.
far. So that kind of, that's been always in the back of my mind. I think also forgiveness.
Mhm.
And I was on another podcast a few months ago, and I was asked a question I've never been asked before, and the host said, out of the seven paths to happiness, which one is the least practiced? Which I thought it was kind of an interesting, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, for sure, by far, is a lack of self-forgiveness,
Mm.
by far. And
Uh, and usually when we think forgiveness, we think forgiveness of somebody else, not forgiveness of ourselves.
but there is a direct link. If you've ever come across people who they never say I'm sorry, they never apologize about anything.
Hmm.
When you get a one-on-one like I have here on the couch behind me, and you really get to find their story, I can tell you they have never forgiven themselves. They are so self-critical and so hard on themselves. So if I can't forgive myself, how am I going to truly forgive somebody else? And I think the forgiveness process is most people just Julie don't know how to do it,
Hmm.
or they're not consciously aware of the price they're paying by not forgiving themselves.
Hmm.
So I take people through a very simple process. It's, very simple process, honestly. It's not as hard as people think. I have them write down a list, like bullet points.
Hmm.
All the things you haven't forgiven yourself for. Could be five things, could be 50 things. I've had people that put things on their list that happened over half a century ago.
Yeah.
So they have carried their dead weight for over 50 years. And once they write them down, I say, well, put a number next to each one of those statements from 1 to 10 in terms of severity.
Hmm.
One would be you and I went out to dinner last night. I was wearing a white shirt. I spilled some red wine. I get kind of embarrassed. That's a one,
Right.
right? That's a one.
Hmm.
A 10 would be, I actually killed somebody.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people go, oh, that's a 10. I'm like, is it? Did you actually murder another human being? Did you molest a child? Did you, hurt a woman? I mean, those are 10s.
Hmm.
What you're talking about, it's important to you. I get it, but it's more like a 7 and an 8. So
Hmm.
let's bring it back into some kind of perspective, and then we go through the list. And we start with the low-hanging fruit, the ones, the twos, and the threes. You gain some momentum, you gain some practice and some success, and then we move on to the toughest ones. This is as a complete side note, but and I've know it's become more than once, but I did this once with a business owner,
Hmm.
entrepreneur, multimillionaire, like very successful. And when I shared, but he has some issues in his own personal life and so on anyway.
Hmm.
When I shared the process of that, he goes, "That's not how I want to do it." And he was just used to getting his way. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I want to start with my tens."
No.
I'm like, "Why?" No, no, but no. Listen to this. He goes, "Why would you do that?" He goes, "Because if I can forgive myself at the worst thing that I've ever done, then everything else becomes easier."
Mm.
There is some logic to that.
There is. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it makes more sense to start with the low hanging fruit, the easier stuff, and then move
Gain
on to
some
the toughest
traction,
stuff.
right?
So basically, I kind of looked at him. I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to do it, frankly, for this for your audience, I don't care which way you do it, as long as you do it.
Right.
It doesn't matter which way you go. What I will share with you is when we're done with this process, and usually they have written in a piece of paper, so we burn it
Hmm.
and we let the fumes go up to the heavens. It's almost like releasing all this weight.
Hmm.
And we hug it out before they leave my office. And every single person, every single time, these are spiritual experiences, spiritual sessions.
Oh, yeah.
You know what they whisper in my ear? Elia, I wish I had done that sooner.
Mm.
And I feel like 100 or 1,000 pounds have been lifted off of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for in terms of the if you don't practice self-forgiveness, if you don't do it, and I don't have anything on my list. And my wife, we've been married for 35 years. She's like, "How do you not have anything on your list? You drive me crazy. Like, how do you not have anything?" I'm like, first of all, I don't take myself too seriously. That's part of it, you
Right.
know. And then again, go back to Nelson Mandela. You learn the lessons.
Mhm.
It's not mistakes. It's a lesson to be learned. Um, and I think, now having said all that, let's say you do all those things, but if you surround yourself with toxic people,
Mhm.
and if you're in toxic environments, I don't care how much self uh, healing and work you do and self care and so on, it's gonna damage your path to happiness.
Mhm.
And I say this as someone who has again made a conscious decision years ago to not have any toxic people in my life,
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
and
and
I
you're
keep
you're
that
continually feeding that back into yourself. And I tell my kids this all the time. You are who you surround yourself with, and they see it play
absolutely.
out in real life. Like, and the cool part with that is you have really full control over that of who you choose to surround yourself with because
People
you
don't
can.
believe that though, especially in
Mhm.
the workplace.
Yeah.
'Cause I've gotten pushback and say, "Well, okay, yeah, I can see that in your person." First of all, people say, "Well, what if it's a member of your family?" I'm like, "Of course it's well, at least one member of your family."
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We've
of
all got
course.
them.
Well, what if it's my boss? What if it's this? What if it's that? I'm like, I get it. I'm not saying that it's easy, but again, I coach them like this is how you untangle yourself from toxic relationships.
Hmm.
And there's a specific process that, again, it's not that hard as long as you follow it.
Hmm.
The first thing you do is look in the mirror. And by that, I mean, if I don't treat you, Julie, with love, kindness, and respect, how can I expect you to treat me that way
Hmm.
in return? So when I have, somebody who's toxic in my environment, this is what I share with people. Like, then it's time to have a one-on-one conversation. I call them hot conversations, HOT,
Hmm.
which stands for honest, open, and transparent.
Mm.
Hot conversations,
Right.
whether it's at home or in the workplace. And hot conversations can take place in one or two different ways. You can take a two by four in the name of honesty and transparency, boom, hit you over the head. Or you can do it from a place of love. So let's say you've had somebody in your life for a long time. That's why it's important first to look in the mirror. Because if I'm not good with you, then I can't have this conversation. First, I have to say, how do I treat Julie? That's the number one thing. But assuming that I do, the first thing I ask is, Julie, for the most part, nobody's perfect, right? For the most part, do I treat you with love, kindness, and respect? Yes or no?
Hmm.
And then the answer is typically yes. Okay, if that's the case, then guess what? I expect you in return to also treat me with love, kindness, and respect. And
Mm.
if you don't, either we're not going to have any relationship, but you're important to me, so I want to have a relationship with you.
Hmm.
When people say, well, what if it's a memory of your family? Okay, then if this doesn't change, you and I will have a very, very superficial relationship.
Hmm.
As in, I'll text you happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah,
Hmm.
Happy New Year, and whatever. And that's how's the weather in Maryland. That's
Right.
basically that's it. If you want to have a deep and connecting and loving and profound relationship with me, then you will need to change. That's the bar, and those are the boundaries, right?
Hmm.
And that's how you set it up. In my experience, however, most people step up.
Mm.
They do step up if they want to have a relationship with you. If they don't, then no loss,
Right.
towards anyone.
Then you know where you're at.
Exactly. And now doing it at work is a little bit more difficult, especially if it's your boss. But
Hmm.
again, there's a way to do that, even at work. You can do that with your employees. If you're a business owner, somebody's going to talk to you like, "Hey, how do I treat you first?"
Hmm.
And that part, I think, is huge. And then because your life is very different when you're not around toxic
Hmm.
people or toxic cultures. And the last path I would say, which is just as important, is kindness.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting. You start with self-care on the one hand, you end up with kindness on the other hand. So it
Hmm.
starts. I believe kindness and happiness are inseparable. In other words, you cannot have one without the other.
Hmm.
Happy people by nature, because their batteries are full, perform acts of kindness all the time.
Hmm.
on the flip side, when you do perform as like acts of kindness, guess what happens? More chemicals get released. And not only that, they stay in your system for 24 hours. So with kindness, truly everybody wins. And that's the recipe right there.
I love that. And it's funny. I was out with my daughter a couple days ago. Actually, I took her out for dinner, and we were just sitting there having dinner. And it just reminded me of this as you were talking about it. But a police officer came in and went up and got his food. And, I jump up and kind of walk around behind him. And I said, can I pay for your meal? And he's like, just kind of looked at me. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And so I paid for his meal. I go and I sit down with my daughter. And she goes, I can't wait to have the money someday to be able to do that. And I said,
So
I've
beautiful.
well, and more than that though, because what I said to her is I've done this forever. Like I've done this in lack, I've done it in need, and you don't when you give from a place of generosity, then you're not looking for return. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, right? But it just struck me as like you don't have to be full, right? Like it's great when you can give from a place of fullness, but um yeah, it comes full circle.
And sometimes I think a lot of times people confuse kindness with money. I mean, yes, that's one way to do it.
Mhm.
But I think for the most part, kindness, uh, and by the way, not random acts of kindness, deliberate, consistent,
Yeah.
daily acts of kindness, most of them are free
Yeah.
because acts of kindness are as simple as, opening up the door to somebody, smiling. If you're going through the line, you're buying something and somebody's scanning your stuff,
Mhm.
look at the name tag and think, "Hey, thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. Have a great day." Calling them by name, making eye contact, because most people kind of go by. They don't even look. They don't even
Yeah.
acknowledge. Like, slide the credit card. That's it. Even that's an act of kindness. What does that cost me? It took less than 5 seconds.
Hmm.
Honestly, right?
Yeah.
Um, you're crossing the street and a car's slowing down. You see them and you wave and you say, "Thank you, I appreciate it." Like, hey, these things don't cost anything.
Yeah.
But when you do that, what happens is then they pass it forward.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come back to you necessarily. But when somebody's on the receiving end of kindness, they're like, "Oh, I want to do that too for somebody else." Even subconsciously, that happens.
Yeah.
So I think kindness is a huge, yeah. And by the way, the other thing is, anytime I kind of like down for whatever reason, whatever, the quickest way for me to snap out of it is to go and help somebody else.
Yeah. 100%. No, I
Because
absolutely agree.
now you may not be in the good mood going to do that, the act or whatever, but on the way back, you're like, "I'm so glad I did that, and I feel so much better." Why?
Yeah.
Because the brain is releasing those beautiful chemicals. That's why.
100%.
I mean, it's
Yeah, it's funny.
science,
We
really.
have at our
Yeah.
local Walmart, we have a guy that we call Mr. Donald. And my husband and I frequent Walmart, of course, as most people do. And he's the greeter there. And he is the sweetest man ever. Like just so kind, so genuine, and like knows everybody. And we look for him every time we go there. We're like, he is the best Walmart greeter ever. And we talked with him multiple times, but we stopped and talked with him the one day, and we're just asking him about his story to learn more about
Right.
him.
What's your
And
story? Sure.
yeah, it turns out he was an ex-police officer and retired police officer and had his whole life of, dealing with crime and everything else. And now it's like he's happy as can be. Like he is just the sweetest man and thrilled to be interacting with people and just sharing kindness everywhere. And it just always
I
strikes
love
us
that.
when we go to Walmart, like you don't expect that. And then, to find somebody's story is to, that much more. You know what I mean?
By the way, that's another act of kindness, what you did, what you and your husband did, which is to get curious
Hmm.
about other people. Ask them and listen what I call with a third ear, not these two,
Hmm.
but this listen with your heart, really like focus on and hold space for somebody. Even a total stranger, even somebody that or an acquaintance or whatever. That's an act of kindness right there. What did that cost you and your husband? Nothing.
Yep,
And yet it made a difference.
definitely. So,
Yeah.
for people that are struggling with mental health, right? Like this may feel like an insurmountable task that they have to do
Sure.
or can't do. What would you say to them?
Which one though? What is an instrument? Because I gave you like six or seven
I
different
know you
paths to do
did.
it,
Yeah.
and so I'm not saying you should do them all today, all seven of them.
Hmm.
What I am saying is do something every day and keep adding to the list. If you do an act of kindness every day, it will move the needle, no question about it.
Yeah.
If you have the courage to have those hard conversations with people who are toxic in your life, and either you eliminate them from your life or the relationship changes is more loving and accepting, you've moved the needle quite a bit actually towards your happiness. If you look for the lessons in adversity and express the gratitude in that, all of those things, and of course self-care, however, self-care is very individual for people. I think there's so many books written and so many stories out there about how do you do it. Take care of yourself physically, you
Hmm.
know, eat moderately, healthier, get good night's sleep, moderate exercise, whatever. I focus, which is true, but that's not my expertise. I focus more on the emotional and the mental aspects,
Hmm.
and these are all the things that we talked about. You do
Yeah.
those on a daily basis, I guarantee you'll be happy, no doubt.
I love that. Like you said, start with self-care, like something tiny, but it feeds you so that you can feed, that energy to other people.
And by the way, people say, well, isn't self-care selfish? And I'm like, yes, do it more.
Right.
Double down, you know.
Right.
The other experience
Absolutely.
that I have is when people face challenges, you know what goes out the window first and foremost is their self-care.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I got to focus on this. Oh, I don't have time for self. No, that's backwards, actually. When
Hmm.
you're facing a challenge, you need to double down on your self-care so you can have the energy and fill your battery so you can deal with whatever challenge you're facing. If you cut that out of your life, and most people that's what they do, now that's a lose-lose for me.
Hmm. Yeah. And you were mentioning earlier about, working with very successful business owners and all of that. How does this play out in the business world? Like, what is that carryover?
Okay, so I have to tell you, so I had a client, we'll name him John, that wasn't his real name, who
Mm-hmm.
came in. He was coming in, he was CEO, business owner, and he had closed, this is like 20 years ago, so he had closed like $1 million deal. It's a lot of money, $1 million 20 years
Hmm.
ago. It's a lot of money now, but it was even more money. And he came in and he's like, and he was so excited. And he goes, Elia, success is happiness. He just said it like that because he knew. And I looked at him. I didn't want to I really didn't want to rain on his parade. I'm happy that he closed the biggest deal of his life. But this man was in his third marriage. The first one, he had adult kids that weren't speaking to him. The
Mm-hmm.
second marriage, he had teenage kids that were sort of speaking to him. They were custody, 50-50 or whatever, but not great. And now he's married to his third wife with a couple of little kids, and they're struggling. And he didn't want to be divorced a third time, third set of kids and so on. That's why he came to me initially. So I looked at him. I'm like, John, I think you got that backwards. Happiness is success. Because if success was happiness, how many people do it? Just look at celebrities.
Right.
They have everything: money, fame, the ability to travel, to buy anything, whatever they want. And how many of them are downright miserable? How many of them actually take their own lives or become addicted to drugs and alcohol and go to rehab and so on? So if success was happiness, that wouldn't be the case, right? But show me somebody who, like the greeter at Walmart, who glows, who's content, who's at peace, who loves what they're doing, he's successful. I know he's a greeter at Walmart, but to me, that's success, not this guy that closed $1 million deal.
Absolutely.
And when I coach people in that, I mean, he didn't like it. And I'm like, look, I'm not raining on a parade, congratulations, but like, this is why you're paying me good money to tell you the truth.
Right.
That was a
Yeah.
hot conversation. He didn't like it, but to his credit, he took it in and
Hmm.
he did the hard work that wasn't easy for him. He was an alpha male. This was not an easy thing to do. And not only did it save his third marriage, but his relationship with his adult kids became the teenagers became better when they would come and stay and visit. But he started having a relationship with his older kids that had completely written him off, his adult kids,
Hmm.
because they saw the changes in him. Now tell me who's successful, the John that closed the $1 million deal or the John that has a relationship with all his kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And those are the things that really matter. I mean, you can always make more money. You don't want to
Right,
just keep making more kids.
right, right. So that's why yeah, I think it's important at work.
Hmm.
The other thing is, and a few months ago, I had a crazy opportunity to be interviewed on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Hmm.
I know that's kind of weird. Never, it's not like you see in the movies, by the way, when you're on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. and was for FinTech TV. And they interviewed me, and this is we've come a long way about the impact of kindness at work.
Wow.
Now think about we're in the cradle of capitalism.
Yeah.
Like we're dead center. There's nothing. There's no other place like that. And the fact that we're able to have conversation about kindness cultures and
Mhm.
organizational transformation, within companies and so on, to me, I think the future is bright. The fact that we can even have those conversations
Mhm.
at that place. Now, having said that, at least in the United States of America, the cost of toxic cultures corporately is $917 billion a year.
Wow.
Basically, it's $1 trillion. Globally, it's 11 trillion. That's more than most countries' GDP, actually.
Yeah.
So we have a huge problem with toxicity at work. And and I help companies and organizations to transform their cultures. Is it easy? No, it isn't. Is it hard work? Yes, it is. If you hire me just so you can check the box with HR, I'm not your guy. I'll say no. No, thanks. No, I'm
Yeah.
telling you right now.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
because checking the boxes and doing some kind of EAP programs or whatever
Mhm.
that you get on 15 minutes on some kind of app to practice it, not that never changes anything. You just mark the box.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be associated with it. Well, this didn't work. We paid you all this money. This didn't work. No, it doesn't work that way.
You
You
got
want
to
it to
do the hard
work,
work.
you got to do it the hard way. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. Well, and you
So if you
mentioned
got,
pulling somebody aside, talking to them one to one, but what are some other ways to address that toxic culture at work?
I mean, I think yeah, those hard conversations need to be had uh, quite frequently,
Hmm.
honestly. The other thing is that is to, you know how in companies you have exit interviews? They're so stupid. It's too late.
Yes.
Exit interviews mean nothing, nothing in the world. You want to help your employees? How about you start having stay interviews
Mm.
frequently? And I help people like when they onboard people, they're excited. Somebody you got hired, you're excited, you can't wait to start the new job, and you told your wife, your husband, whatever, I'm going in Monday, and then things that they promised maybe didn't quite come to fruition.
Hmm.
Oh, we'll get you a computer, we'll get you this, we'll get that. So I say the first day interview happens that Friday of the first week. I'm like, what? Like, we just hired him. I'm like, oh yeah, because that Friday you want to ask him, hey, did we deliver in everything that we promised?
Hmm.
You know, yeah, people are nice here, but I'm still waiting for my computer. I haven't been able to work. Because the greater the gap between expectation and reality, the greater the pain,
Yeah.
right? And this happens at work all the time. There's certain expectation when you have a gap. That's when you have all the frustration, the anger, and so on.
And then it builds.
And I speak a lot in customer relations, conferences, like how do you treat your customers, basically.
Hmm.
So the greater the gap, the greater the pain. When reality matches expectations, now that equals happiness. Or in the corporate world, you say that equals trust.
Hmm.
And then once in a while, because we live in a very competitive world, especially with small businesses or business, they say, when reality exceeds the clients or the customer's expectations, now that equals joy on a personal level, but more importantly, that equals loyalty to your
Mm.
brand and to you in a business sense. And because, especially in the post-pandemic world, we live in a very different world. There's so much competition for our attention, for our money, for our spending habits, and so on. Meeting expectations is actually not enough anymore, a lot of times.
Hmm.
We have to exceed our customers' expectations. Because when we do that, guess what happens with our customer or our client? They become our brand ambassadors. Forget your
Exactly.
marketing team. They not go out and say, let's just use, my phone or whatever. I have certain like I'm very loyal. My phone or my phone carrier, my bank, specific airlines. And why do I do that? Because they treat me like a king.
Hmm.
And they've done that consistently over time. So I'm loyal. And not only that, I broadcast it. I share with other people. Hey, you should fly with this airline. Or this bank is awesome. And even because no organization is perfect, even if there's a time when, I had certain expectations, they didn't match it for whatever reason. If it happens once in a blue moon, there's so much history before. and so much in the trust fund
Hmm.
of that relationship. So it's a one-off. Like I can now, if this starts happening consistently, then I have to re-examine my
Right.
relationship with them. But I would let them know the first time. It's like, hey, I've been a customer for 30 years, and the way that I was treated here didn't, say, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gourgouris, whatever. I'm like, wow, and they fix it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, and
So
that's another key part is when you do screw up to actually take accountability and do something about it.
the quicker, the better.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, exceeding expectations in businesses in transactions is the key to success.
I
Let
love
your
that.
own customers be your ambassadors. Let them market you.
Right.
Let them bring you new referrals. Let them open up more doors because they're happy with your service or your product.
A
That's
hundred
it.
percent. I love that. And for everyone listening, there's gems that you have that you've shared with us today, which I love. What is that lesson that you would love to share with the world and just get that message out to them?
I think the biggest, lesson is don't procrastinate your happiness. Unfortunately, I think we live in a society of, I call it the society of when.
Mm.
When I have enough money, when I'm in the right relationship, when I'm married, when I have children, when my children grow up, when my children graduate, when my children get married, when I retire, when. And to me, this is what happened to the pandemic was the great equalizer. Forget all your whens. Live your best life now because there's no guarantee that either one of us will be here tomorrow. We don't
Mhm.
know. You don't know. You think you do, but you don't.
Mhm.
So as a result of that, live your best life now. Invest in yourself now. Practice your self-care now, not some, when I have time. It's a classic. Well, I don't have enough time. Well, I can't afford that. I'm like, you know what? You can't afford not to. It's the other way around. Yeah. I mean, and I say it like that, and people look at me
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like,
No, it's the absolute
it
truth.
it is the truth. So why don't we speak the truth then? So I put there and take personal responsibility for your life because most people when they struggle with whatever challenge they face, people fall into four different categories. We talked about the first one, so the victim,
Hmm.
poor me, right? The second one is the critic. So the second one is someone who is always mad, angry, frustrated, who's always blaming somebody.
Mm.
The president, the CEO, my spouse, the society in general. They're always in blame mode,
Mhm.
always blaming somebody else. The third one is um, sort of like the observer. They are so overwhelmed and scared by all the changes that are taking place, which can be overwhelming. So
Mhm.
basically, they do nothing. They're on the sidelines. They're not in the game of life. They're watching the game of life passing by. Stupid, but they're not doing anything. And then the fourth, actually, personality type, if you will, it's called the navigator. And the navigator does all the things we talked about, all the things and they do it on a consistent and a daily basis. Now, the key is this, though. Oh, it's not like, it's not like, well, Dr. Ely's a navigator and I'm the victim. No, all human beings, this is my psychology head, all
Mhm.
human beings have all four of them inside themselves, myself included. The difference between people who are successful versus those who are not, however, is if you want to feel like a victim, do it for 30 minutes. Don't do it for 30 years. Go from like, why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me? And snap out of it. Have I been mad at the government from time to time? Whatever. This is not a political statement or the powers that be, of course. But if I stayed mad at them for the next 6 months, who am I hurting? Them or
Yeah.
myself? So if you want to get mad, vent a little bit, do it for an hour, do it for 15 minutes, and then pivot and go into navigation mode, which is, and navigators, what they do great is they always take personal responsibility, right?
Mhm.
And they take action rather than the person who's the observer. And I help companies create cultures of navigators, one by one, a team of navigators, and then the entire enterprise full of navigators.
I
And when
love
you do
that.
that, magic happens. That's how you do have cultural transformation.
Yeah. But it starts one
Yeah.
person at a time, one day at a time, one conversation at a time.
But Julie, this is the hard work though.
Yeah.
It's not at some box AAP 15 minutes on your phone to change. That's not going to do it. It's what you just talked about. One person at a time. It takes longer,
Hmm.
but it's real. And once you do that, then if you come into this organization and they're thriving like that, guess
Hmm.
what? The expectation is that you're going to join. You'll become a navigator too, or else you're going to be out.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's how
absolutely.
you do it.
And then people are coaching each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I could talk to you all day long, and we may have to have another chat. But for the people listening, where can they find you online? How can they connect with you and get your book and everything else?
Yeah, the books are both, Seven Paths, Amazon, Seven Paths to
Mhm.
Lasting Happiness is the first one, and the other one is the Seven Keys to Navigating a Crisis. Dr. EliaGourgouris.com. But LinkedIn is the best way, I think. I'm LinkedIn, not as much on Instagram or, some on Facebook, but I think LinkedIn is probably the one. And my
Awesome.
website, yeah. And I love to connect with your folks, answer whatever questions they have. That would be fun sometimes if you get questions from this, from your audience and ask them, capture them, then I can come back and maybe answer their questions.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Because
Well, we'll
I
have,
love doing that. To me, I do keynotes all over the world, but I cap it at 45 minutes. The last 15 minutes is Q&A. For me personally, that's my best part. I love answering people's questions, you know? So that's one way to do it, and it'll be a very interesting conversation.
that would. Awesome. Well, we will capture the conversations from the audience and definitely let me know what your questions are, and we will bring them back to Dr. Elia because this has been awesome. Thank you. And we'll have all the links in the show notes so people can
Yeah.
come check it out too.
Thank you, Julie. It's been my pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And
Of
if you
course.
found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com, and I will see you on the next episode.